Bills have not had an interception in a game in 5 games. No interceptions in their last 5 games.
The biggest problem for the Buffalo Bills be as simple as turnovers, not only giving the ball away offensively, but the lack of getting turnovers defensively. Before we look at the stats, I want to review this article that states turnovers matter and so does luck, and why that's going to play an important factor for the Buffalo Bills' losses so far this season. This article states from 2002 through 2013, if a team had +1 in the turnover margin or turnover differential, we're going to take a look at that for the past several seasons for the Bills, they were 69.6% likely to win the game. If they were +2, they were 83.9% likely to win the game. +3, 90.7% likely to win the game. A team's turnover margin accounts for 41%, 9% of the team's win variance. That means your wins and losses hedge a 41.9% of the time on how you fare in the turnover margin. And what I like most about this article and how it pertains to the current Buffalo Bills, it also states that turnovers depend on talent to some degree. Sometimes it is based on luck. Not every turnover is equal. Somewhat like Dalton Kincaid's fumble last week against the Cincinnati Bengals. There's a saying in the NFL that sometimes the football just bounces funny. This article states sometimes it bounces perfectly in the defender's hands. So the study was done to figure out how much of the turnovers were based on talent versus based on luck. And you could see here that the turnover differential throughout the season was 54.7% attributed to luck. Only 45.3% was due to talent. Let's review every Buffalo Bills season dating back to 2020 when the Buffalo Bills were actually fully healthy. And that is included one of our next problems for this season. But you could see in 2020, the Buffalo Bills had a 0.4 turnover differential. Total takeaways by this defense was 22, and the total giveaways by our offense was 18. Therefore, a +4 turnover differential. In 2021, the Bills were healthy all the way until Thanksgiving when Trey White tore his ACL. So we're still getting a good idea what the Buffalo Bills were, a +8 in the turnover differential, being a top 10 defense in the NFL in that department. You could see the total amount of takeaways by our defense was 30, and the total amount of giveaways by our offense was 22. This is where things start getting a little bit haywire for the Buffalo Bills, and I really think it is because of the injuries. But you could see the Buffalo Bills in 2022 had a 0 turnover differential. They had 27 total takeaways on defense, and they had 27 giveaways on offense. Sure enough, this season in 2023, the Buffalo Bills are still stuck at a 0 turnover differential. We have 14 total takeaways defensively, and we have 14 total giveaways offensively. After reviewing that first article, we understand how important turnovers are when it comes to wins and losses. And just to prove to you that turnovers are probably the biggest problem for the Buffalo Bills in 2023, we have to take a look at this offense just to see how well they are doing, leading the NFL in so many categories. Points per game, the Buffalo Bills offense is 5th in the league. Yards per game, the Buffalo Bills are 5th in the league. Points per play, we are 3rd. Yards per play, we are 3rd. Third down conversion, we are 1st. Red zone scoring percentage, the Buffalo Bills are 3rd. Touchdowns per game, the Buffalo Bills are 3rd. Josh Allen is currently the #1 fantasy quarterback in the total amount of points scored this season through 2023. He still currently has the highest completion percentage of any quarterback. You could see completion percentage for Josh Allen at 71.3, #1 in the NFL. Yards per pass, we are 5th in the NFL. Pass yards per game, the Buffalo Bills are 5th. And the sack percentage on Josh Allen is only 3.86%, which is #2 in the NFL, which proves this offensive line is doing a great job blocking. Now, the problems with offense here, interceptions thrown percentage, the Bills are at 2.78%, which is 24th in the NFL. We are throwing the 24th most interceptions, and a lot of Bills Mafia thinks that we are struggling running the football, but the stats prove otherwise. You can clearly see here that the Buffalo Bills' yards per rush is actually 12th in the NFL, almost a top 10 offense rushing, and you could see the total amount of rush yards per game. The Buffalo Bills are in the middle of the pack at 16. Rushing touchdowns per game, the Buffalo Bills are top 10, falling at 9th overall. And what I find interesting here is that the Bills' rush play percentage is 25th in the NFL, meaning that we are rushing the ball the least, the 25th least of any team in the NFL. But again, we are 12th in yards per rush. We are in the middle of the pack with rushing yards per game. So if the Buffalo Bills decided to run the ball more, I think we would be more effective and these stats would even go higher. It's not that the Bills can't run the football, it's the lack of commitment to running the football, especially early in games. So far, we've seen turnovers be a massive issue for the Buffalo Bills. And second, we've seen that rushing the football is really due to the lack of commitment, not that we don't have the players or that we cannot run the ball. Penalties are also another massive issue here for the Buffalo Bills, and you can see the penalties per play, the Bills are 25th in the NFL. The penalties per game, the Bills are 22nd. Penalty yards per game, the Bills are 20th. And even on the defensive side of the football, you could see the Bills' defense are also getting penalties, being penalties per play at 16th in the NFL, penalties per game at 17th. Penalty yards per game at 19th. We see Josh Allen in this offense being a top tier offense, leading the NFL in so many categories, especially throwing the football. But what are the Buffalo Bills' defensive stats so far through 2023? We could see the Bills are actually 5th in the NFL, allowing the fewest points per game. The Bills' red zone defense is currently 7th best in the NFL, and we are allowing the 7th fewest touchdowns per game. Now, there are some glaring holes here that we need to discuss on the defensive side of the football, but do not forget about the injuries that have occurred. And we're going to review every single loss so far for the Buffalo Bills just to show you what is going on. Our third down percentage for this Buffalo Bills defense is 23rd in the NFL. The yards per play that we are allowing is 26th in the NFL. But is that passing yards or is it rushing yards? We could see opposing offenses are running the ball the 8th most against the Buffalo Bills at a 39.26%. Bills are allowing 4.9 yards per rush, which is the 30th worst. It's clear to me that the Buffalo Bills are still struggling stopping the run here in 2023, which has been a reoccurring theme all throughout McDermott's career. But the difference for this year is that we lost Daquan Jones. We lost Matt Milano. Some massive pieces up front. Don't forget that we did replenish those pieces. And the proof is there that opposing teams want to run the ball against the Buffalo Bills, only passing the ball 60.74% against the Bills, which ranks 25th in the NFL. Completion percentage for opposing teams is really dominating this Buffalo Bills pass attack, is allowing a high completion percentage at 68.23%, which ranks 23rd in the NFL. Opponent yards per pass, the Bills are 19th. The opponent's pass yards per game, the Bills are 14th. The opponent's interceptions thrown, which boils back to those turnovers, the Bills are 12th in the NFL. The sack percentage is really the highlight of this Buffalo Bills defense, ranking currently 5th in the NFL, sacking quarterbacks 8.84% of the time. We see the success offensively. The Buffalo Bills offense leading so many categories on offense, to include run after catch. The Buffalo Bills are currently 5th in the NFL, but this Buffalo Bills defense struggles on third down percentage. We're not getting turnovers defensively. We have some of the most penalties and penalty yards per game. Going back to that original article stating a lot of turnovers are based on luck, and just unfortunately for the Bills at inopportune times, especially early in games, or the Bills are in a rhythm driving down the field about to put up points and a turnover occurs, killing that drive. The proof is there that the Buffalo Bills offense is successful. We are leading the NFL in so many categories. This defense being a great team at sacking opposing teams, and really ultimately every one of our losses have been fairly close. Let's take a look. In the loss against the New York Jets, the Buffalo Bills had 4 turnovers and the New York Jets had 1. We lost the turnover differential in this game by 3. And I think we all remember Josh Allen's 3 interceptions that he threw, but he actually had 2 fumbles in this game as well, with only 1 being recovered. resulting in that 4 turnovers. And when we talk about turnovers happening at inopportune times, you could see the earliest turnover in this game happened at the very beginning of the second quarter. And reflecting back to the game, they lost Aaron Rodgers 4 plays into the game. The Buffalo Bills had all the momentum on their side, but to start the second quarter, Josh Allen throws an interception, keeping that crowd alive and the noise being a problem. We heard Ken Dorsey talk about that. Communication at away stadiums has been an issue, especially when we're calling that silent count. So yes, the Bills were healthy in this game, but 4-1 in the turnover department. The Bills lost to the Jaguars in London on that dirty turf, 25-20. We could just take a look at the turnovers. You might be surprised that it was 2-2 in the turnover department and we still lost, but what unfolded during this game was injuries. First drive of the game by the Jacksonville Jaguars, the Buffalo Bills stopped them, forcing them to go 3 and out, basically because of a Daquan Jones tackle on third down, a tackle which resulted in him tearing his pec. The next drive for the Bills offense, we stalled out going 3 and out as well, but again, going to London, kind of having maybe some jet lag. On the following drive for the Jacksonville Jaguars, which resulted in a touchdown, was when Matt Milano broke his leg. And it wasn't only Matt Milano, Kingsley Jonathan got injured as well. Daquan Jones and Matt Milano were out of the game with 7 minutes 50 seconds in the first quarter, only losing by 5 points, and the Bills were without Daquan Jones, Matt Milano, and we had 11 penalties for 109 yards, basically marching the Jacksonville Jaguars all the way down to score a point. Having that many penalties, we basically guarantee the Jacksonville Jaguars 3 additional points, which is very important with this game because we were forced to score a touchdown at the very end of the game. If we didn't have so many penalties, we would have been down by only 2 points, meaning a field goal at the end of the game would have won it for the Buffalo Bills. Consider the injuries and the amount of penalty yards in this game, and the Bills still almost had a chance at winning. It's pretty remarkable. Buffalo Bills lost against the New England Patriots in New England. Once again, all of our losses have come at away stadiums. You could see the turnover. The Bills had 2, the Patriots had 1, thus losing the turnover battle in this game. And don't forget, the Bills were without Damian Harris, we were without Quentin Morris, we were without Ed Oliver, Daquan Jones, Matt Milano, Trey White. The Bills only losing by 4 points, and we could see that Tyler Bass missed one of his field goals in this game, which means we would have only been down by 1 point. And if you remember, at the very end of the game, Mac Jones scored the go-ahead touchdown, putting them up by 4 points. But in reality, if Tyler Bass made that kick, it would have been 1 point. The Bills, with 12 seconds left on the clock, would not have been forced to score a touchdown. They would have only had to score a field goal to win the game. With 12 seconds, the incomplete pass to Stephon Diggs was hardly missed, which would have put us right on the 30-yard line with 1 timeout left to kick a field goal and win this game. In the Bills versus Bengals, we could see that now 3 of 4 of the Buffalo Bills losses happened when we lost a turnover differential. The Bills had 2 turnovers and the Bengals had 0. And don't forget, this was the first game with Rasul Douglas, Linval Joseph, Leonard Fournette was not active this game. They all only had 2 days of practice, which is going to supplement the losses and injuries on this team. Damian Harris for Leonard Fournette, Trey White for Rasul Douglas, Daquan Jones for Linval Joseph. And in my previous video, we saw the amount of screw-ups by the refs in this game. I counted 12 times that they screwed the Buffalo Bills. Just like that opening article stated, that turnovers somewhat happened with a little bit of luck. That Dalton Kincaid forced fumble was absolutely remarkable by the Cincinnati Bengals. You can't expect that to happen every single week against us. It was just a great play, an unfortunate play for the Bills. You could see here that the Buffalo Bills were on the Cincinnati Bengals 22-yard line, which means at least a field goal, and we were in rhythm. We were grinding. I really believe the Bills were about to score another touchdown. And on the final drive for the Bengals, the Bills almost had another stop. We could see here that Joe Mixon rushed around the end with 2 minutes left in the game for a first down, which solidified things for the Bengals. but they were somewhat holding on that play on Josh Norman, and Von Miller hardly missed the tackle. You just think about how close this game ultimately was, considering everything going into it, between the injuries, between losing the turnover battle 2-0, between the amount of penalties and the amount of times that the refs totally screwed us, and the Bills still had an opportunity to win in the final moments of this game, going against one of the best teams in the NFL. I want you guys to listen to Chris Brown on One Bills Live and how he summarizes the turnover battle.
Why? Because the other team is in the game on the scoreboard. They're either playing ahead or they're within a score of the Bills, so no need to throw the ball all over the yard. What does that mean? A defense that relies on splash plays like sacks and interceptions does not have nearly the same number of opportunities that other teams. Running the ball, they're mixing in play action, they're ahead on the scoreboard, they're not making high-risk plays, so now the pass rush can't get off because they're not in third down and long distance. There isn't a chance for a pass rush to affect quarterback, make ill-advised throws, which then decreases the opportunities for the defenders on the back end to make plays on the ball and head the other way.
Really how this is all mixing together, and what Sean McDermott has been preaching for weeks is about playing complementary football. A lot of people are calling for Sean McDermott's head, they're calling for Ken Dorsey's head, but the stats do not lie. We are doing some great things, and I really believe it does boil back down ultimately to the turnover differential. Yes, we've had injuries too. Yes, we've had penalties too, but ultimately the biggest problem is not taking care of the football offensively. The lack of turnovers for this Buffalo Bills defense, especially the past 5 weeks, knowing that we've had a transition kind of from these injuries, Daquan Jones, Matt Milano, Trey White, we are losing these games by the skin of our teeth. And just like that saying says, the football sometimes bounces funny. And once it starts bouncing the Buffalo Bills way, look out NFL. We are on the roadmap to the playoffs. Only one game behind the Miami Dolphins. We already beat the Miami Dolphins. We play the Miami Dolphins again. We win the AFC East. We solidify a spot in the playoffs. And you all know what happens once you get into that rodeo. Anything is possible. And don't forget, the last time Miami beat a team with a winning record was in 2021. Well, I hope you guys appreciate this effort towards this video. If you did, and it would really support my channel if you hit liked, consider subscribing for future content. Trying to present you guys a wealth of information, doing a lot of deep digging research. I still have faith in Sean McDermott and Ken Dorsey and their philosophy of Kaizen and continuously improving. But I appreciate every single one of you, and go Bills.